I'd like to discuss blacks in America. There's a reason they give a record contract to a black guy that's accused of attempted murder, drug dealing, gang affiliation, years and years in jail, uh, all those things. Because they're trying to bring down the black man with the black man. Now, uh, they're trying to, when you say, well, blacks aren't like that, they say, well, look at him. They are like that. You take like a P. Diddy. Blacks don't do that. Well, P. Diddy did. Look at him. And every black star you can say, they have a black mark on their record. And it's done, they're given that power and that position on purpose to make that black mark even bigger. They're never too big to not have a black mark. And they don't want black people to have power. They don't want black people to be powerful. They want black people to propagate the stereotype. That they're lazy, they're dumb, they're greedy, they're selfish. We give them permission to eat when we give them food stamps. That's our stamp of approval. Oh, you can eat this month. You can only eat like $20 a month, but we're giving you food. We're not starving you. We are starving you, but we're not technically. The newspaper says we give them food stamps. It doesn't say how much, and what you can do with it. So, and we push them into such downward positions where they have to deal drugs, they have to steal catalytic converters, they have to rob jewelry stores, they have to deal in guns just to pay the rent. Because working at Macy's, they're never getting a job at Macy's. Forget it. And, it's just the good blacks, and there are many more good blacks than there are bad blacks. There are many more good blacks that have an education, that have gone through hell and high water to be where they are, and even more than anybody else because of the pressures they're under. A black lawyer or a black doctor is under immense pressure. They try to make him quit all the way along the line of him getting there because they don't want him there. So the ones that do make it have been through hell. And unfortunately, some of the ones that do make it and get there are devils themselves. And that's why they make it. The good people get weeded out. The good people get pushed to the side, and the devils get put forward. And they don't mind that. The whites and the people controlling the system don't mind that because the whites are devils. And to have a black devil is, just goes along with the program, and to have a good person in there, it's like a cog in the wheel, a stick in the wheel, that screws everything up. So, and it's like everybody does bad things outside of church, but when they go in church, they're like, they're Mr. Perfect, Mrs. Perfect. And while they're with their mistress or their side piece on Monday, but Sunday they're perfect, and it's kind of like that, They don't want good people in the doctor world or the lawyer world because the bad people don't. The good people like the priest, and the bad people don't want to play around the priest. You know, it makes them feel self-conscious. And that's why they don't want good people to be doctors, and they want good people to be lawyers. You know, they want scum of the earth like them. You know, and you know, and most lawyers are scum of the earth, and that's how they get where they are. They can't get there unless they are scum. The tests and hurdles they have to jump and go through to get there. If they're not scum of the earth, they won't pass those tests and they won't jump those hurdles. So that's how you know. You know, and if I don't trust doctors. I don't trust lawyers. I don't care who they are. I don't care what their reputation. I don't care how much money they have or how much money they make. They're all pieces of crap. You know, and like I said, they can't get there unless they are a piece of crap. You know, and the ones that aren't a piece of crap say, "I'm not doing this. I don't want to be a part of this," and they bail. You know? And it's sad, but it's the reality of life. You know, and you know, I know you met lawyers, I know you met doctors, and you think they're very nice people. All I can say is you don't know what they've done behind the scenes to get to where they are. And they haven't done pretty things. And when a doctor turns you away because he doesn't accept your insurance, that's not a pretty thing. You know. And when a lawyer screws you because it's his job and he knows it's wrong, again, that's not a pretty thing. You know. And I understand the stipulations in those jobs where they have to do those things, but the people that would fight it are not allowed to become doctors or lawyers because they would fight it, and they don't want those people in there. You know, and they threaten to take away the licenses of the doctor or the lawyer that fight it. You know, it's like a Patch Adams. Patch Adams didn't follow the AMA, the American Medical Association guidelines. You know, and they tried to stop him from graduating medical school all the way along the whole line, the whole time he was in medical school, because he did things differently. He got results. He made the patients better, but they didn't care about that. It's the way he did it, not that he did do it. And you know, you can follow their prescribed way of curing people, which they don't cure people, and he did. So, you know, it's along those lines. You know, I said that a lot. I say that a lot along those lines because these are patterns. You know, if you look for life and look throughout your life, you look for patterns. You know, that's how you can tell if your husband is cheating on you or if your wife is cheating on you, because they break the patterns. They went from kissing you and hugging you and saying good morning and cooking you breakfast or cooking you dinner, so all of a sudden they're not available. So all of a sudden they don't love you. They don't say I love you. They don't say good night. They're not in bed with you when you're sleeping at night. And those are the patterns, and they're breaking those patterns. And you'll go through denial and say, oh, he's just working hard, or she's doing something, whatever, you know, it's on her mind, she's working hard too. But you'll just discount the breaking of the patterns until it becomes too much. And you're like, I knew you were cheating the day you stopped kissing me good morning. And truthfully, she started cheating way before she stopped kissing you. In her mind, you know, she was always looking for that side piece. And he was always looking for that side piece if he didn't have two or three. So, you know, it's just... And that's, you know, blacks, they try to portray as they cheat. You know, what's the most confusing day in the ghetto? It's Father's Day. Nobody knows who their father is. You know, and to an extent, they're not wrong. But whites cheat too. Whites cheat just as much. You know, and look at Trump. He cheated. He definitely cheated. You know, he cheated on Ivanka. Shoot on Marley, shoot on all of them. Uh, it's just, but he's was made president. If he was black, he would have been vilified, put under the jail. But and it's just a way of keeping the black man down, and that's what they do. And that's why they give these people positions of power and influence, because they want other blacks to think it's okay to be in the gang, it's okay to deal in guns, it's okay to sell drugs, it's okay to rob jewelry stores, it's okay because my rap star does it or did it, or he rapped about it, and it makes it okay. Why? So the cops have more people to put in jail, more people to take out of society and put in their coffers, which is the prisons. They get paid to watch those people in prison. They get paid to defend them in court or prosecute them in court. The judges get paid. The lawyers get paid. The bailiffs get paid. The correctional officers get paid. The cops get paid. And by putting black people in these starring positions, it's like raising hay for the horses, and the blacks are the hay and the horses are the cops and everybody else. And they just feed off of them, and that's all they're doing. So, I'm not saying these people don't have talent. Some of them do, but that's not the reason they're there. Record sales go up when they go to jail. It doesn't hurt their career. And that has a lot to do with what whites do, not what blacks do. Because whites control the music industry, and whites control who gets the contracts. And it didn't start today. It's been going on look at Run DMC. They had the guy with the glasses, I don't know his name, he went down for rape, and they killed MC, it was a whole big deal with that. Tupac, Biggie, it just keeps going on and on. It's been going on for years. And the young people are trained now to look for those kind of things before they buy an album, when they download an album. They don't want a clean cut black guy that just goes to school and does good and gets good grades. It doesn't sell records. And the records aren't the circular records that you put on a turntable. The records are the judge's record, the court record. That's the records they want to sell, because that's where the big money is. How many blacks are in jail right now compared to whites? It's like 80 to 20%, if not higher. And, they don't do that with any other group, Jews, if you're a bad Jew, you don't get to be on a movie or a rap star. You don't get anywhere. You're a bad Italian. You have a record. You don't go anywhere. But if you're black, you go right to the top. You go right to the front of the line. And they're just propagating these stereotypes. And they use these unsuspecting blacks that just want money and fame. And they also push the Gucci, Dolce & Gabbana, all the Nike. They push all the brand names, because those brand names pay those black people to wear those clothes and push their brands. So now they got a whole pool of black people that buy Gucci. They can't afford Gucci, but they buy Gucci anyway. So it goes throughout society. It goes throughout all the avenues you can think of. to bring down society. And it's what it does. It brings down society. It doesn't lift it up. And it brings out certain parts of society, which is the black part of society, which is the goal. So